Welcome back to Hey Kentucky. There are some new poll numbers out in advance of next week's primary. So to kind of break those down, what they may mean, let's talk to Bob Babbage, political analyst for LEX 18 and just all around good guy. Bob, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Privilege. I appreciate it so much.
So, Amy McGrath was a foregone conclusion, it seemed like, for months, but now this race is tightening up. And according to this poll by Civics, Charles Booker may actually be ahead of her now.
We studied the poll, Mary Jo, and it definitely shows that the race is on the Democratic side. If we'd had the primary back in May when we were supposed to, everybody thought it was a foregone conclusion, McConnell versus McGrath. But things began to change when other issues arose and Booker seized that moment. McGrath has had a couple of stumbles in the campaign. Booker's had to get known, challenges for both of them, and now we're right at the end of it and trying to figure out exactly where it stands. This poll is definitely instructive. It shows Booker with Democrats up 51 to 39. That's all that counts right now. Independents can't vote in this primary and Republicans can't cross over. So it's just about that Democratic lead, which looks to be substantial for Booker at the moment. However, McGrath has made a big investment this week all across Kentucky, even markets outside Kentucky like Nashville, to reach the southern part of our state. And Booker's had rallies different places. Some funding has come in for him because of recent events and his effort to make that pitch. So this is going to be a very exciting Tuesday. The difficulty is we don't know the results on Tuesday, a historic moment when we await the score of the ball game without having seen the ball game, and the score is not up when the game is over.
That's right, and it could take about a week to find out results. I do want to point out, though, that in this poll, and polls are polls, there's a margin of error. Not every voter is asked, but
right.
Regardless of who wins the Democratic primary, it appears that Mitch McConnell still has a substantial lead on either Amy McGrath or Charles Booker.
True. McConnell's lead in this poll shows him over 50%. If you think back 6 years for that McConnell-Grimes race, that was not the case at this point. So against either of these opponents, McConnell wins based on what this poll says. The poll asked a number of people. It's a little heavy on the independents, Mary Jo, so it might not be quite as accurate as we would like, but it's the only measure we've got, and it shows McConnell in a commanding position. Even more so, it shows Trump way out ahead.
Absolutely, and I was going to say that the two things that really stuck out to me the most were when I looked at the unfavorable ratings. And the only person that has more unfavorable ratings than Amy McGrath is Joe Biden.
Right. So if you put them together on the fall ticket, you've got some negative there to deal with. Of course, Kentucky has historically of late gone for the Republican in the presidential race, and our congressional delegation is all Republican except for Yarmouth of Louisville. So those are all the fundamentals you forecast before an election, but the poll is an interesting read. It'll get a lot of attention because it definitely confirms that Booker is a heck of a contender and that McGrath has a lot of popularity among Democrats right now.
When you add into that the number of absentee ballots that have been requested from the major cities like Lexington and Louisville, which a lot, especially in Louisville, does that suggest to you that Charles Booker has a better chance than maybe we thought a couple months ago?
Well, he definitely has a better chance than we thought even a month ago. All this has emerged very lately. 889,000 Kentuckians asked for an absentee ballot. If 90% of them vote, that's a lot of people. Young people are showing up in the poll for Booker. Older voters who tend to vote more, better, showing up for McGrath. So that's the horse race. Who can pull it off? Obviously, there's another candidate in that race. He's only showing about 5%. The undecideds maybe 5 or 6%. So it really comes down to how these two finish up. Can they make their presentation? A lot of voters in the poll don't know Booker yet. They're just undecided or don't know. That's not uncommon for somebody who's relatively new on the state scene. But you ask about the two big cities, they matter a lot in a Democratic race. They look to be possibilities for Booker in a strong way, although McGrath ran in central Kentucky and did very well in Lexington in her congressional race before. So in these absentees that we're talking about, the 889,000, 56% of those are Democrat, 41% Republican. But for the walk-ups, and that's about 50,000 people so far, Mary Jo, they're about 50-50. 51 Democrat, 49 Republican are going in to vote personally. If that holds up on election day, we would hope, one, for a whole lot more people on election day to come out. And secondly, it will be fairly evenly matched about who's showing up. The Republicans have less of a race, but as we've seen in California and Georgia recently, other places, Republicans are voting for Trump even when he doesn't need that vote. Although on our ballot, you can vote for uncommitted, either in the Democratic race or the Republican race. And on our ballot, all those Democrats who were running back in January and February get printed on the Kentucky ballot. So voters who might have a protest vote or another favorite have some room there to express themselves. It's a very different ballot than we're used to.
Bob Babbage, we're going to have you back on after the primary is over and the results are in to chat about it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I always enjoy your political times. Damon Thayer's my favorite, but you ought to have a few more, and we'll keep watching and participate when you want us to. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Babbage, political analyst for LEX 18. More Hey Kentucky after this.